Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and it's Thursday afternoon. It's 5 p.m. UK time, sounding all very DJ, aren't I? It's 5 o'clock UK time, and we are going to start doing our Thursday thoughts. I have got my air conditioning running, so if it gets annoying or you can't hear me, I've tried to position the microphone so it's pointing more at me and not the aircon. It's very warm here in the UK. So my little hut gets like a little sauna. So if you would like me to turn it off and you would like to see me suffer, then just let me know and I will certainly do my very best to accommodate. So Michael Ingledew, TDW, we are live on the tubes. I don't know whether we're live on our website. Again, the streaming server is playing games. So I am just going to forge ahead with the YouTube variant of Thursday Thoughts and log a complaint with our vendor. So there we go, because that's the second week in a row that we've had some kind of problem. We are now live, as I say, Friday. It's Thursday, it's not Friday. Tomorrow we're going to be doing something else. Might keep that to the end, might save it as a surprise. I just want to apologise for last week. Now, last week we had a hardware failure, which meant that we couldn't go live at all because the PC that we use does do the live service, and that prevented us from going live. So we just took a decision that we were going to not go live, and I did something else which I'll talk about later on, which I promised that I would do. So let's change some of the camera angles here. We'll clear that one. So hopefully now I've split the screen and you can see. So we're going to do our normal news and then do some future news, augmented reality, that kind of stuff. Then lots of TDW stuff. Now there was about 65 news items this week, obviously because we couldn't do last week. So I've just gone through and I've pulled out the ones that I think are most appropriate, most applicable to us in our sector. And I have had some questions as to, you know, some of you are saying that there's stuff happening in your organisation that we're not picking up on. First and foremost, send it to us. And secondly, you know, we can only put so much up here. We try to keep it to 30 minutes and, you know, we'll live and hope. We'll see what happens in the future. So let's whip through the news because there's loads of it going on. If you didn't follow last year, that solar electric plane, I think it was last year or the year before, that flew all around the world. It was the first fossil fuel power of an aircraft that went all the way around the world. Well, BAE Systems are developing something for, they say it's going to be it can stay in the air for a year. So I wouldn't want to be that pilot, but unless it's going to be unmanned, of course. So that's an interesting story. I'd be interesting to see how that one develops. This aligns nicely with something I said a couple of weeks ago at Thursday Thoughts, was that Boeing have kind of agreed with something. We get an MRO magazine, and in that MRO magazine they said that there was going to be a shortfall in maintainers going forward, and now Boeing are saying that they believe there's going to be a global shortfall of 2 million aviation workers. Now that could be anything from baggage handlers to, you know, pilots and everything in between. By 2036 they believe there's going to be a 2 million shortfall. Now this is something that I talked about in lieu of Thursday Thoughts last week, and I'll talk about that. But they're saying that they're investing in some college programs that they believe will at least alleviate some of this pain. And in the tutorial that I talk about what we at TDW are doing. Now, Galileo project, something that's very close to my heart because I know the guys down at Oberwaffenhofen, and it's a fantastic project, and Brexit seems to be derailing this project now, and what they're saying, the European Union. So if you don't know what Galileo is, up until recently in Europe we have relied on the US navigation system, the GPS navigation system, and in fact all of our mobile phones etc still have all of this stuff on. But the European Union decided that they wanted their own GPS type system, so they came up with Galileo, and it's going to be used for, you know, navigation and all that, but it's also going to have military applications. And what they're saying now is that if the UK wants to be outside the European Union, then they can't be inside the military side of the Galileo project. Now, of course, the problem with this is there's already a number of these satellites up in space that are already got British components on them. So this will be interesting to see how this one develops, because it's going to be, you know, the rat's nest that has turned into Brexit is now having real impacts. We talked about Rolls-Royce a couple of weeks ago, and now the Galileo project. And I heard this week that there's some organisations are now appointing Brexit officers to deal with Brexit in their organisations. This one, I'm sure, is worldwide news. Iran and the nuclear deal, and the US pulling out of that particular deal. They're saying that it's going to hit both Boeing and Airbus in the region of 40 billion US. Now, I heard that it's actually going to affect, or I didn't hear, I read a report that says that it's actually going to affect our Airbus side of the business far more than it is Boeing. Now, if you look at the Boeing order book right now, we track Boeing as a company. They are knocking it out of the park. They are winning business left, right and centre. And so that it'd be interesting to see how that's panning out. And if you don't know, and I know that you're watching this in the States, we have the European leaders are frantically trying to put something together that I think will mitigate some of this. This, again, another Boeing contract, knocking it out of the park. They will be the supply chain. They will manage the supply chain for the Bronco 2, which is the counterinsurgency plane. And this will be interesting because, you know, Boeing are promoting or mandating, and this week I saw something from Boeing, from one of the customers that I support, that you know, S1000D seems to be the thing. So will it be for the Bronco project? And if it is, get in touch, let me know. I just wanted to call out Bombardier and Wallace and the guys out in Belfast. I was with you a couple of months ago. You made me feel very welcome, showed me around your facility, and you've got a nice Tech Pubs team there, ILS team there, and you've won some business, which they're saying is going to safeguard those jobs in Belfast, which I think is phenomenal news, because I know that it's not all been great news for Bombardier recently. Rolls-Royce, sorry guys, every week Rolls-Royce, there's more Rolls-Royce, so you go make yourself a coffee if you don't want the Rolls-Royce stuff. But Rolls-Royce and Airbus have partnered, and they will collaborate on the UltraFan engine integration. So again, I'm sure there'll be a huge Tech Pubs requirement, that side of things. Now this one I thought was really interesting and not totally surprising, but it's not necessarily in our sector. But Mercedes-Benz, the vehicles, the cars, you know, the normal automobiles that you buy, I read that they're looking now at ditching the hand-printed handbooks that you get in your car when you pick up your car, when you pick up your vehicle, and they're now going for augmented reality apps. And you know, I've got friends that work at some of these more prestigious brands, and this is something that they're pushing forward. Now I know that Semcon do a lot of work in this area with some brands, and when we had our innovation and information workshop a couple of weeks ago, they were showing some of the stuff that they were doing. But I thought, you know, for a car manufacturer to come out and say, we're going to be ditching the print and you guys are going to have to learn how to use augmented reality app, it's really quite interesting. In fact, we were at the Mercedes garage only a couple of weeks ago, and the demographic of those looking to buy a Mercedes seem to be older than me, so let's hope they can cope with that augmented reality apps. This one seems to roll on and on. I talked about this about episode 2, 3 or 4, I can't remember, where there was a court case where it talked about the FAA was not obliged to tell suppliers to give MROs technical information so they can maintain and overhaul pieces of equipment. And it turns out now that this story is going on and Ariston. And If you don't know, that's an old advert here in the UK if you've never heard of that. And it seems now that there's no obligation on the FAA to force component manufacturers to give the information, but it seems also now they've been told that there is a legal entitlement to those documents. So this one's going to get even more complicated, I'm absolutely sure. Marshall Aerospace, if you don't know who Marshall Aerospace are, British-based company that overhaul lots of, you know, older aircraft. They do modification programs, and they, you know, do lots of work on aircraft that have been in service for a while, and they modify them, they update them, and part of that update process is they also update the technical support information. And I read this week that they have won I think it's a C-130, I don't know, don't quote me on that, for the Bangladesh Air Force. So well done, guys. I picked that up in the Cambridge Press. Thales in the news have signed the support contract for the Bushmaster with the Dutch military, so I'm sure there'll be some support information requirements around that for sure. Rolls-Royce, this again, Rolls-Royce. So this I thought was interesting. So their HQ right now is in London, and they're now looking at reducing costs and moving it outside of London. And I'm hearing that obviously at the HQ, I don't believe there's any tech pubs kind of facilities there, but I'm hearing that they're looking at moving it to Derby. That's one of the reports that I read, or one of the articles that I read, which is obviously where some of the tech pubs guys are. So I think that's good if they do move to Derby, because that solidifies their presence there in Derby. This one I picked up, General Dynamics, Microsoft Office 365. Now, they're going to deploy this for the US Air Force. They're going to put Office 365 out there, which is fantastic, because this is going to help. If they're going to have that kind of infrastructure, that means we can have that kind of infrastructure for our technical information. And I know the UK Defence is looking at this as well as something that they want to do, because believe it or not, some machines that they have at some facilities are so out of date that even the software is no longer supported. So if they can get on this constant maintained platform, it will make life so much easier for them and for suppliers, including technical information. Boeing and Airbus again have now, I guess they're looking how they can diversify and how they can grow and how they can continue to grow. They're now all moving into the services market, and that would align nicely with some of the acquisitions that are going on. If you follow both of these companies, there are lots of acquisitions going on that would point that this was kind of where they were going. Rolls-Royce again, 700 jobs being saved, because if you haven't seen the news here in the UK, the update to the nuclear submarine program, I think it's a 3.2 billion GBP contract, has just been awarded to BAE Systems, and obviously Rolls-Royce are doing the power plants on that. So well done to Rolls-Royce, and you know, great news that it's going to safeguard those jobs down there, or up there from me here in Chichester. This one I mentioned because this was a contract that I was involved with, a project that I was involved with, and I had to support Otokar, who were the guys that designed and built this piece of equipment. And it holds and has in the back of it MTU diesel engines, and I helped implement the TechDoc strategy for this platform, or break down the technical documentation constructs for this platform. And obviously I can't talk about the platform particularly, but some of the stuff they were doing with information and how they were deploying information was very, very clever. And it's great news to see that this has now gone into serial production. It's going to actually get built, and it's a phenomenal piece of equipment. And yeah, do a Google on it, find the Altay tank, and when I was down there, the Turkish people are so nice, and they really, really looked after me. Rolls-Royce again, but this is for the C5000 project. I know that we've had a couple of C5000 people ask for access to our magazine. It's not clear to me whether you're going to be using S1000D or anything along those lines. Be interesting to know. I know we did get a nice email in from someone on one that says they're supporting the program. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, the C5000 project is something that I'm following and seeing what's going on down there in Australia. Long way away, but interesting to see what's going on there. Now, moving on to something that's more, you know, over the horizon, what's coming over the hill towards us. Well, first and foremost, thank you very much to the chappie at NASA who sent me an email last Thursday thoughts. I said that I thought satellites were fire and forget, and we leave them up there. You sent me a lovely LinkedIn message saying, don't forget, we send astronauts to space, and astronauts need to be able to maintain the equipment that they're using as well. So yep, I stand corrected, and thank you for that. But I read this and I picked this up, that NASA is now looking at augmented reality helmets for the astronauts, and I guess that'll all come down to the maintenance and how they can work out there in space and training and all that kind of stuff, which I thought was super interesting. But this I thought was even more interesting. Not to say that astronauts aren't super interesting. This I thought was interesting, was that augmented reality headsets are now going to have biometric authentication in them. And I was trying to visualize, no pun intended, how this might work. And I was thinking, well, I guess if it knows who you are, the headset knows who you are, and you look at a piece of equipment and you are not able to view the information around that piece of equipment, it just won't show it to you. So I guess that is super exciting. Samsung, not to be outdone by Apple. So a couple of weeks ago, Apple announced that they were going to have an AR VR combined headset. Samsung have now said the same, that they too are going to have an AR VR headset. And so, not to be outdone by Apple, they are going to do exactly the same thing. And again, previously I mentioned that Firefox were developing a specific browser just for AR, and it was going to be, you know, something that developers could use within their environment. Google and the Chrome platform are now saying that no apps needed in a future version of Chrome. It will give you the AR experience directly from the browser that you're using right now. And there's lots of videos online on this. Again, all of this I'll put links in the actual blog post, so you can go and read this in full. But I think this is super interesting, because what they're saying is now they're going to hide all that technology in the background, and you'll just be able to use the browser that's up on your normal machine. In fact, I've got it on my Android device, and it'll just work apparently. So moving on to some member news. Karina, the Karina suite from Flatirons Juve. I think you're still Flatirons Juve. Flatiron Solutions. So I want to make sure I get it right. I know you're going through a rebrand at the moment. So announced, I think it was only yesterday I picked this up off LinkedIn, S1000D issue 4.2 support. I thought you already supported it, but now you've made the formal announcement that you're supporting it. And the S1000D BR rules for ATA CMP production. And yeah, I was reading through the BRs yesterday, and it looks very interesting. So I thought I would pull that out for you to, if you wanted to go and have a look at that, go to the Flatirons website. GPSL, two things GPSL. Andy and the team, thank you very much. I understand from Claire that you've renewed your membership and support for TDW this year. Thank you very much for that. And I just wanted to call out that you guys have got another webinar coming up on mix and match of specifications and how you can manage that in one common system. I know that last year STL did something very similar at our conference. They gave a presentation very similar. I'm looking at joining this one myself. Again, we'll put a link below to how you can go and join that webinar. I think that'll be pretty interesting. I'm going to try and whiz through the TDW bits because we're already at 20 minutes in. And Tech Data Direct, we announced it and launched it last week. You can go to techdatadirect.info or members.techdataworld.com. Both take you to the same place. And that is essentially now, you can see our members online. You can search what capability they have. You can contact them directly. You can look at the kind of stuff that we do as TDW to help organisations like yours. And you can see the guys that are behind us and supporting what TDW is doing. So take a look at that. Last week's Thursday Thoughts, as you know, we didn't manage to get live because of PC machine. So Claire kicked me up the woods to go and do some photography, and I thought I would take you guys with me. So I took my camera with me, and I did a podcast, and I did a blog from there, and we've made that live on our website. And I talk very much in the same vein about that Boeing article where they're saying about the 2 million shortfall of engineers and aviation experts and that kind of stuff. But I talk about specifically in our sector, and a conversation that I had recently with somebody that I respect and trust in the market, and what we're doing, more importantly, what we're going to do about it here at TDW. GDPR, I know lots of you have already done this, but I'm going to keep mentioning this every week until for another few weeks at least, is that you have to re-sign up to our newsletter. Even if you have been getting our newsletters previously, as from the 25th of this month, that will stop. You need to, for us to comply with the GDPR regulations, part 1, I've recorded a video telling you what you need to do, and then we're going to tell you part 2, how that affects technical publications. But to get access to part 2, you need to watch part 1 and sign up to our newsletter. So please go ahead and do that, watch that. It's actually a little bit of fun, and thank you for everyone who sent in their comments, thought it was a thoroughly interesting video. Podcast episode 8, I talked about modular data and the deployment of modular data. I would have announced it last week. Jamie made it live last week, and please go and listen to that on podcast.techdataworld.com or Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. It's up there, and I quite like it. We put it on YouTube as well if you want to watch it on YouTube. As you know, we were invited a couple of weeks ago to the Army Navy game in Twickenham. We put together a really fun video of our day, and you'll see halfway through where maybe I'm a little bit worse for wear, but you can see that we had a fantastic day from CDS Defence Support. We put together a little fun video for you to go and have a watch and have a look at that. So I'm going to come on to some questions, then I've got a couple of minor announcements at the back end which I think could be interesting. So we got this question in: why does S1000D software cost so much? Now, Claire said, I thought you'd done a video on this already. I'd actually done a video on the S1000D cost curve, but what I've done is I've done a very specific one looking at the editors in the market. Now, so this question came in from a customer of ours. I've answered it in a video which we've now made available on TDIQ. If you want to watch that, you can get in touch with us at memberservices@techdataworld.com, and we will allow you to watch that one free of charge, so you can kind of get a feel for the kind of content that we put up on TDIQ. So this one will be made available free of charge. So it's about a 15-minute video tutorial, and it talks you through the dynamics of the market, where the expense lies, and what's changing in the market that might bring that cost down, which I think is really impressive. So the question that came in from a TDIQ subscriber, I know you sent in a massive email. I have read it. I said to Lewis that I think it's probably best that I do a tutorial, and quite why we haven't done one on the RPC and that kind of stuff is a little bit beyond me. So we're going to do that. I've taken your question, I've outlined a course, we're going to put that together over the next few days, and that will be made available to TDIQ subscribers. You raise some good points, but you're confusing some of the originators and RPCs and those kind of things. So we'll do a tutorial on that, we'll make it live, and you'll be the first invited to have a look at that. I'm hoping that this person, young lady, young man, who came online and asked Lewis a question yesterday, was asking a question via our online chat, asking about revision cycles in S1000D. You were struggling with the QA cycles and the revision cycles in S1000D. If you get back in touch with us, we've done a full tutorial on the QA cycle, issue number, in-work number, and the validation cycle of a data module. That's available on TDIQ. So if you want to know how you can access that, get in touch with us at memberservices.com. Be more than happy to talk to you about that. Lewis or Claire will talk to you about how you can access that. I just wanted to call out John Mannix at CDS Defence. He was proudly sporting last year a t-shirt that we had made for him. He liked our RTFM splash, and we're going to get some little RTFM metal pin badges done. But he sent me an email at the weekend saying recycling the t-shirt, and he's framed it and put this up in his office. So pride of place. What we should have done is got the little TDW logo in there as well. But just wanted to call that out, and glad to see that you're still getting use out of that. I picked this up literally 30 minutes before I was due to go live, and normally I don't like to mess with the slides before I go live, but this is an old friend of mine, Philippe, I think it's Zingoni, or in France. Used to work at Ontaire, now is an independent consultant, one of the nicest guys you'll ever get to meet. He is working in partnership with Adobe, and he's doing a road show around France on the Adobe TechCom suite. So again, down below I will put a link to his more information page. It's all on LinkedIn, but I'll send you there. You can go and have a look at it, and hopefully you guys will, if you're in France, I know that we have lots of you in France watching our videos and our podcasts and all that stuff. So but please do support Philippe, because he's a super nice guy, and he runs a B&B down in southern France if you're ever down that way, and super nice place. Follow him on Facebook. So that's it for this week. That's all the news. Lots of stuff going on. We will try and keep ourselves on top. Now hopefully this machine will not die on us anytime soon, given the cost that it's just given us trying to get it back. I'm just going to close all of these down, and hopefully we are wide again. So that's it, guys. That's Thursday Thoughts. 28 minutes. I'm getting good at this, and I just want to say that hopefully, let me know. I'll just check, make sure nobody's commented or anything. Nothing there. Anything on our website? Nothing there. Great job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So that's us, guys. That's this week's Thursday Thoughts. Next week's Thursday Thoughts, we're back. Watch that Thursday Thought I did last week, because it'll give you an insight into what's coming next from TDW. At that point, chaps and chapesses, wherever you are in the world, have a good evening, have a good rest of your day, and if you're watching the recording, good morning, and speak to you soon.